What is going on, guys and gals? In this video, we're going to talk about what to do if your baby is born with its umbilical cord hanging off still. Selling in the billions each year, Rainbow Mealworms is your one-stop shop for all your insect needs. Their quality feeders and A+ customer service keep me coming back to support the health and growth of all of our animals. Visit them today at rainbowmealworms.net to place your order. Okay, so in the somewhat rare occurrence that the baby's umbilical cord is still hanging off when it's born, this is what you'll want to do. You'll want to set up a small tub of water just like this that's very, very shallow. And you could use lukewarm water so the baby's not freezing in there. And as soon as you put the baby in, it's going to start to wash off some of this vermiculite that was probably attached to it from birth. And here you can actually see within seconds of me putting the baby in the water, the umbilical cord fell off, or at least part of it. Here's the baby with the umbilical cord that was still partly attached. You can see a little bit of it right there, right underneath its belly button, that pink thing hanging off. Now, that should dry up and fall off on its own within a couple of days, or maybe a week tops. But until that happens, what you'll want to do is set the baby up in a little quarantine tub like this. This will keep it as bacteria-free as possible, so you're not dealing with like 2 geckos' poos and the poo possibly causing an infection in that area. And you'll want to set it up with a very shallow water dish right there and a very shallow mealworm dish. Again, these little dishes I buy from webstaurant.com. You could buy them in the thousands for about 1 cent each. And they make great water dishes and food dishes for baby leopard geckos getting started. Now, this baby leopard gecko is showing no other health signs or deformities or anything. It's actually looking really, really good. You see the way it's standing? It's looking strong. So I would expect, you never want to completely expect, but I would expect this leopard gecko to make a full recovery and drop that remaining umbilical cord within a couple of days. Until then, it's going to have its own water bowl, its own mealworm dish, and you don't want to keep the paper towel too wet. You can see like it's a little damp over here, but you don't want it wet everywhere because moisture can invoke higher levels of bacteria to grow, which can cause infections. So you don't want to do that completely. If you just have some drier parts of paper towel, that's good. Sometimes little babies that are in quarantine, they really like water droplets along the side. So I would spray the tub down with water real quick before putting the paper towel down and just make sure that there's dry areas of the paper towel. It's not a very heavy spray. And there's a better shot of it right there. It almost even looks tied off on its own, but you don't want to pull at it or anything like that. You want to just let it fall off naturally. And so its sibling, since its sibling is fine, is going to get set up in our normal setup for a baby. This is how a baby normally gets set up from the start. If it has no issues, it will get a 5-cup humid hide, and you can see how tall that is. They have no problem getting in there. It will get a 0.5 ounce souffle cup, which is used for water. This is a 2 ounce souffle cup, which is disposable, and I'm starting to experiment with it right now for babies and even bigger geckos because I could just toss it instead of washing the food bowl every week, and it can hold worms and supplements, no problem. And that's it. The other gecko will go in here. Now, as much as possible, wash off a little bit of the vermiculite. I'm not going to worry too much about getting the rest of that off. It's not a lot, but as you can see, what was stuck to the umbilical cord before was a lot. That's a lot of vermiculite. If that's still on your gecko, then what you'll want to do is with the shallow water, you can see how shallow the water is. The baby's head can sit above the surface and still breathe, no problem. But what you'll want to do to swish off the vermiculite is do something like that, little bit, little gentle, and make sure you use a tub that is very smooth and can't cut the gecko at all. Okay, now this is actually later in the same day that I was filming. It's nighttime now. So it's only been about 6-7 hours since I was filming. I looked and I did not see any umbilical cord. And so past experience tells me that it dried up and fell off already. And there it is. And when I was looking at it earlier, it did look like it was knotted and kind of tied off. And so that's a good sign that it's going to fall off soon. I think that the baby was just so freshly hatched, it didn't even have a chance to fall off yet. But most of the time, the umbilical cord will sever itself and and cut itself off while the baby is hatching out of the egg so that it doesn't drag the umbilical cord with it outside of the egg. And that's probably biologically for a couple reasons. The first of which is going to be when you drag the umbilical cord out of the egg, it can gather dirt, feces, bacteria, and can wind up causing infection, inflammation, and in worst cases, death. So the animals have probably biologically trained themselves to sever their own umbilical cords on their way out of the egg. And this is for lizards and snakes alike. But sometimes there are issues where the umbilical cord is not severed and it's still attached when the baby comes out of the egg. All right, guys, so that's it. I wanted to take this opportunity as soon as I saw it to make a video on it because I do get a lot of questions about this, and it's just really good to have a step-by-step picture tutorial and video. I know it is because I've researched stuff and I want to see video on it, right? So we will come back in a couple days. Hopefully everything will be good with this gecko, and then we could put it with its clutch mate. If it's not, I'll give it up to about a week, and it should definitely be dried up and have fallen off by then. If it's not, what you want to do is possibly look for signs of infection or inflammation, you know, swelling, and you should look for that all the way up through the week. Like, I'll check on it every couple of days to see if there's purple colors, blue colors, swelling going on, and if any of that's going on, then you might want to take the next step, which would be to take the gecko to a vet if you want to, because the vet would know really well the best thing to do in that procedure. There are things they can do. Sometimes they could like tie off the umbilical cord and then make an incision, but if you don't make an incision and tie it off in the right way, the gecko can bleed out because that umbilical cord was connected to its blood supply, food supply, feces supply, everything. And so if you make the wrong incision in the wrong way, you could definitely end the life of the gecko. And since I've never done it successfully with a leopard gecko, I tried it with a ball python, and I can't remember if it worked last year. I don't think it worked. When I did it with the ball python, I cinched the thread too tightly to cut off the blood supply, and it actually cut through the umbilical cord, and that's when I actually saw blood coming out from that umbilical cord. So I know that that's what happens if you make a mistake in this instance. Now, these geckos are so small, you know, I don't know if a vet is gonna be able to do anything, but they will most likely try. I mean, a vet is there. They're gonna try to do something for your gecko. So it might cost like $50 for the visit, and then if they make that attempt, they might charge you like another 50 or 100 bucks. So expect around $150 to try to save that gecko's life. And if you don't want to save the gecko's life and it's really like inflamed looking and stuff like that, you have two options. You can try to just rinse the gecko every couple of days with fresh water. You don't need to use chemicals or anything like that. Very shallow, and see if it eventually auto corrects itself and does fall off. Or you can unfortunately put the gecko down at the vet, which again will cost you like 150, 200 bucks, or by yourself, which if you need to do that, contact me, because there are some ways that you can do that that is really, really painless to the gecko as far as we can tell in the hobby. So I thank you guys once again for watching this video. Please recommend other videos below and let me know what you thought about this. Did it help? Did you run into this issue at any time in the past? And what other issues have you run into that caused you to set up a quarantine tub just like this? I thank you guys. I appreciate you. I'll see you in the next video. And until then, have a geeky gecko great day. Peace.